In the second level of a vertical shaft cut into the bedrock beneath the Giza Plateau, a stone sarcophagus, weighing approximately 40 tons, sits in a niche carved into the north wall. The sarcophagus is not made of any material cataloged in the standard reference work on ancient Egyptian stone. X-ray diffraction analysis identifies it as dacite, an igneous rock dominated by feldspar and quartz crystals so fine they require a microscope to resolve. Dacite is documented in Egypt, at Jebel Abu Dukhan in the Red Sea Governorate, the source the Romans later quarried for imperial porphyry. It is not documented in any other ancient Egyptian artifact from the entire span of dynastic production. The Osiris Shaft sarcophagus is the only dacite object in the catalog, and no mineralogical match has been published linking its stone to Jebel Abu Dukhan or to any other named deposit. The block is 40 tons. The shaft is the Osiris Shaft, named for the resemblance of its lowest level to the mythical tomb of the god Osiris, a stone sarcophagus on an island surrounded by a water-filled artificial canal. It is located directly beneath the long limestone causeway that runs between the Sphinx and the Khafra pyramid at Giza. The Egyptian archaeologist Salim Hassan discovered the shaft in the 1930s and explored its upper levels. Full excavation to the bottom waited until 1999, when the regional water table beneath the Giza Plateau had lowered enough to allow access to the lowest chamber. The 1999 excavation was conducted by Zahi Hawass, then director of the Egyptian Supreme Council of Antiquities. The shaft descends in 3 levels through approximately 35 meters of solid bedrock. It contains no constructed masonry. The walls are the cut rock face. A 2026 paper by Corrado Malanga and Filippo Biondi, working with tomographic imaging techniques developed independently, identified volumetric anomalies at the second-level depth, whose position and geometry are consistent with the archaeologically documented locations of the 2 sarcophagus-bearing chambers. The shaft layout reads the same from the rock face and from the radar return. The material identification of the second-level sarcophagus rests on standard analytical mineralogy. Dacite is distinguished from related volcanic rocks by its crystal microstructure and feldspar quartz composition. The identification is unambiguous under X-ray diffraction. The published primary source is a 2008 paper by Ioannis Laritsis and colleagues in the Journal of Cultural Heritage, titled Mineralogical, Petrological, and Radioactivity Aspects of Some Building Material from Egyptian Old Kingdom Monuments. The same paper categorized the analyzed sarcophagus samples into 3 mineralogical groups: granites, sandstones, and calcites, and 5 subcategories. The dacite sarcophagus at level 2 of the Osiris Shaft did not fit any of those groups. It was its own category. The relevant question is not whether the identification is correct. It is. The question is where the stone came from. Lucas and Harris, in their canonical Ancient Egyptian Materials and Industries, list every stone known to have been worked by ancient Egyptian craftsmen during the dynastic period. Dacite is not on that list. Published surveys of ancient Egyptian stone vessels do not include it. The British researcher Robert Temple, who has written most extensively on the shaft in his book Egyptian Dawn, consulted a geologist with a career-long survey of African geology. The geologist's view was that no African dacite deposit produces veins of sufficient mass and uniformity for a sarcophagus of these dimensions. The geological literature qualifies this. Dacite is documented at Jebel Abu Dukhan in Egypt's Red Sea Governorate, the Mons Porphyrites region, source of the porphyritic dacite material the Romans later quarried for imperial porphyry. The Egyptian deposit exists. Whether it could yield a 40-ton block of homogeneous dacite without the porphyritic phenocrysts that define the Mons Porphyrites variant is a separate question. And the mineralogical match between the Osiris Shaft sarcophagus stone and any specific Egyptian or Mediterranean source has not been published. The southern niche of the same level holds a second sarcophagus. Its exterior is coated with a thin film of bitumen. Beneath the bitumen, X-ray fluorescence analysis identifies a metallic layer composed primarily of lead, with smaller fractions of zinc, iron, titanium, and arsenic. A lead substrate beneath a bitumen overlay on a stone sarcophagus does not match any known tradition of ancient Egyptian surface treatment. Decorative lead paint exists in the Egyptian record. Lead as coating substrate beneath bitumen does not. Robert Temple's exploration team measured gamma radiation inside both level 2 sarcophagi using a Geiger counter. The corridor near the granite box environment outside the sarcophagus registered approximately 14 bursts per minute. Inside sarcophagus 2, the count rose to roughly 38 bursts per minute, about 2.5 to 3 times the background reading. Temple's interpretation is that radiation at this intensity, sustained over time inside a sealed stone box, would sterilize the bacteria responsible for organic decay. His proposed function is preservation. The observation, elevated gamma radiation inside the sarcophagus, repeatable on the meter, is independent of the interpretation. The interpretation is a hypothesis. The reading is data. To date a structure carved from bedrock with no organic mortar fill, the conventional radiocarbon method is unavailable. The Greek archaeometry professor Ioannis Laritsis developed an alternative in 1994, published initially in Comptes Rendus of the Académie des Sciences in Paris, and refined in a 1997 paper on the Temple of Apollo at Delphi in Geoarchaeology International. Laritsis is recognized in the academic literature as the initiator of ancient buildings luminescence dating. The method works on the surface of granite, basalt, sandstone, and other crystalline rocks. It measures the time elapsed since the surface was last exposed to direct sunlight. The mechanism rests on electron traps in crystal lattices. Quartz and feldspar crystals absorb energy from low-level ambient radioactivity in the surrounding rock, storing it in microscopic structural defects. Sunlight exposure releases the trapped electrons. The traps empty. The clock resets. When the surface is subsequently buried or sealed, the traps refill at the ambient rate. Measuring the present fill state, combined with the known fill rate, returns the time elapsed since the last sunlight exposure. Laritsis and colleagues applied this method to a sample taken from the Dacite Sarcophagus II at the Osiris Shaft, and published the result in the same 2008 Journal of Cultural Heritage paper. The dating range returned was approximately 3,350 BC to 2,250 BC. The oldest endpoint sits roughly 850 years before the conventional 4th dynasty construction horizon of the Giza pyramids, in the pre-dynastic period before the political unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. The median date is approximately 2800 BC, which places the sarcophagus in the 2nd dynasty, the early dynastic period, 2 to 3 centuries before the conventional pyramid horizon. Even at the median, the dating is older than the standard reading allows. At the older end, it is older still. The method dates the moment the stone surface was last in direct sunlight, not the moment of artifact manufacture. The artifact can be older than the dating result. It cannot be younger. If the dacite block had been quarried, shaped into a sarcophagus, and placed in the shaft, the dating window covers the placement, the moment the surface was sealed against light. The lowest level of the shaft holds a different sarcophagus. Its material is granite, not dacite. Laritsis dating returns a result of approximately 2370 BC, well within the Old Kingdom and consistent with Egyptian dynastic chronology. Some art historical scholarship dates the same sarcophagus stylistically to the 26th dynasty in the late period. Pottery sherds recovered from the lowest level of the shaft are dated stylistically to the 6th dynasty. The shaft has a multi-period occupation history. Levels 1 and 2 may belong to one construction phase. Level 3 may have been extended later. Robert Temple's reading, based on the Laritsis dating asymmetry between levels 2 and 3, is that levels 1 and 2 are the original structure, and level 3 was added during the Middle Kingdom, when the cult of Osiris achieved religious prominence in Egypt. At the bottom of the shaft, approximately 117 feet below the surface in 19th century records, an artificial canal surrounds a stone island carrying the lower sarcophagus. The canal is filled with water at a precise level. By 1999, when the regional water table had dropped, the canal had partially drained and enabled excavation. The bedrock at this depth is too solid for random seepage. The water in the canal must be fed by a constructed conduit drawing from some other point in the Giza subterranean system, with an opening beneath the canal water level hidden from observation. If the conduit exists, there must be additional unmapped subterranean chambers in which the source water resides. None has been published. The mapping is not complete. The conventional reading of the shaft is Zahi Hawas's. He interprets it as a dummy tomb for the god Osiris, a symbolic ritual installation belonging to the dynastic Egyptian religious calendar, with construction probably in the New Kingdom or later, and continuing modification into the late period. The 6th dynasty potsherds establish an Old Kingdom occupation horizon, though pottery in a chamber dates the occupation, not the chamber itself. The 26th dynasty stylistic dating of the lower sarcophagus places that object within recognized Egyptian art historical chronology. The Laritsis surface luminescence range for sarcophagus II, with its 2800 BC median, is contested at the method level by some Egyptologists, who note that surface luminescence dating remains less established than radiocarbon, and that the calibration of luminescence at granular crystalline rock surfaces carries wider error bars than the calendar year precision of carbon. The dacite material remains unexplained within the conventional framework, even after the Jebel Abu Dukhan deposit is acknowledged, because no published mineralogical match has been demonstrated between the Osiris Shaft sarcophagus stone and any specific Egyptian source. The current consensus position is that the shaft is a dynastic-era symbolic installation whose unusual material choices reflect long-distance trade or local quarry exploitation that has not yet been documented. The shaft is cut into bedrock that cannot be dated. The Dacite sarcophagus is made of a stone with no other surviving artifact across the dynastic period and no published mineralogical match to any documented source. The Laritzi's dating range extends from the Second Dynasty at the median to the pre-dynastic at the older endpoint. The water in the canal, at 117 feet below the surface, comes from a conduit no one has mapped. The reconciliation has not been completed. If you want to support deeper research and found this journey as fascinating as we did, subscribe to Ancient Epochs for more.